16th of September. In attendance, we've got one apology, Councillor still on leave. Table of contents is as is. Okay, acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land on which we gather today, and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. Now, in regards to the declarations of pecuniary interest, the rules have changed slightly, and I'll read out the relevant section. As per the Local Government Code of Conduct Order 2024 Part 2, conflicts of interest that are not pecuniary. 6. A council who has an actual, potential or perceived conflict of interest in a matter before the council must A. Declare the conflict of interest and the nature of the interest before discussion of the matter begins, and B. Act in good faith and exercise reasonable judgment to determine whether a reasonable person would consider that the conflict of interest requires the councillor to leave the room during any council discussion and remain out of the room until the matter is decided by the council. So that's the new ruling at the moment. We're going to be changing the policy down the track.
But it's a model policy from the state, so we're awaiting that.
Yes. So does any council have any conflicts of interest?
I just wanted to ask about that. How does that differ from before? Because just maybe a few different words, but it still looks like it's still the same sort of thing. So what's changed about it?
To me, they're telling you that you need to do it and identify even those interests that are not financial interests, but where you believe where there's a perception out there that the community may have that you've got an interest in a matter, you need to declare those items.
Councillor Perrott.
Yes, my understanding is you actually have to disclose the nature of the interest, that not just that you have an interest, but you also now, not just saying you have an interest in item 3 or 4, but you own the property next door or something like that along that line. So that's my understanding, which is additional to what we don't do at the moment. So this becomes an
At the
additional.
moment, it's just a number.
When I fill it in, I identify what it's for. So, normally people do, I hear what Councillor Terrett's saying, but now they're saying you need to do that.
I mean, we do it on the form we fill in.
Yes, that's right, that's where it's done.
Now, how does it work with closed council items?
That'd be the same.
Same thing.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody have any pecuniary interest to declare? No? Well, I do. In closed council, it's in information items, item 3.0.1, and do I need to name up? It's I'm a party to the defamation action. Councillor Adams?
Yeah, there's a matter of closed council dealing with the men's shed. I'm a member of the men's shed. I don't sit on the executive, and I haven't been a part of any discussion in relation to the matter that's before council. I just declare that.
Okay, next item. Oh yes, we need to move in a second. Yes, beg your pardon, we do need to move in a second to accept those. Councillor Lambert and Councillor Brooks. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes from the meeting Monday the 19th of August. Need a mover and a seconder, Councillor Adams and Councillor Terrett. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The date of the next council meeting will be Monday the 21st of October. Council committees, the confirmation of the minutes of those committees. Councillor Lambert's moving, Councillor Andrews is seconding. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, in those committees, the Cressy District Committee has a motion regarding the road marking to make safe vehicle entrance to the Ringwood Hotel. And there is an officer recommendation. Does anyone wish to move that or a different one? Councillor Goss?
I'll move the recommendation and I'll speak.
As is?
Thank you.
Yes. And a seconder, please. Councillor Brooks. Any discussion? Councillor Goss?
Just reading the minutes, don't really quite stack up. Just that the Cressy Local District Committee have spoken about it, and they brought this to council. Sort of reading the minutes, it sort of says that I think that wanted to go back to the Quirky Local District Committee. Well, the committee's already spoken about it and put this into council. What they're concerned about is that the buses come out of the Ringwood Hotel and they turn right, but because of the way the cars park there on both sides of the road, which is quite difficult, it's hard for them to get round to the right, and there's been some accidents there. They've talked about them turning back to the left and going to the top part of the town up towards Rivers and Waters, and maybe turning around up there. That's where that came from the committee. I'm not sure whether officers have done any investigation on that yet, but that's what they would possibly like to see happen, because the congestion around the hotel is quite hard. They would just like to initially what they would like to have is that directly next to the hotel driveway, a yellow line on the road to stop cars parking so close to the driveway, because the buses can't turn in and out around there. That's something they would like to have, but the Cressy District Committee would like something done about it, and they bring that to council. They don't want to come back to the District Committee again. They want something resolved with it.
So the recommendation that council note the request and the committee be advised that this is an operational matter and will be considered as a works request that's will go to the Works Department. Okay, Councillor Terry.
I'd just like to get some feedback from the Works Manager in relation to that particular request and the likelihood of that being done. I don't want to be lost in the ether if it's an operational matter. Is it possible to get done?
Yes, a lot of places we have done it on either side of the driveway. We normally only go back a metre. We have just to stop the back of the end of the car. I think, from what I've had a discussion before, I think they want to take a full car parking space out, so the bus has got somewhere to swing to the left. I have spoke to Jay, the owner of the buses previously, and he won't look at turning the buses up the road further. He said they've got more options of driving forward, and rather driving forward rather than reversing up the road.
Councillor Brooks.
Is it possible to move that outdoor, what's it called? The parklet. Is it possible to move that parklet south a bit so it gives the buses a bit more room to swing to the right? Because it is fairly close to the edge of the driveway, isn't it?
People in the room's got a whole driveway next door from the hotel.
Why can't they get out then with a bus?
Yeah, I can't understand this.
Excuse me, one at a time. Works Manager.
Yeah, so you've got a whole driveway between that from the Rustic Bakery and then the Ringwood, so you've got the Rustic Bakery driveway. Why they can't get out, I can't answer that, sorry.
Councillor Archer.
I think it does mention here driver training, and I have a feeling that now 50 kilometres an hour and the traffic there should be no reason why an adequate driver cannot get out of that.
We'll leave it as an operational matter, and I think our Works Manager will deal with it. Thank you. Okay, have I moved? I'll move that recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. The next recommendation is from the Longford Local District Committee around the public shower in the Longford Memorial Hall. And the officer's recommendation is that council will consider the outcome of the pilot program for consideration in upgrading facilities in other areas. Councillor Lambert, you happy to move that particular motion?
Well, I'd like to ask some questions as well, so.
Yes. And Councillor Andrews? Okay, Councillor Lambert.
Just in relation to this, there was a proposal back in January, which is in our information items, which listed 5 different things, and it was all to do with public showers and doing some research. And one of those was to investigate a mobile shower unit or what we could actually utilise from our own facilities, and a further report to council. Now, I noticed in the info items that's actually on hold. And I can only presume it's on hold because of this pilot, but I'd like some information around, first to clarify that, but also to get some information around this pilot. How long is it going to run for? What's the criteria that we're looking at? And, et cetera. And when it might come to council, the results, so we can actually have a look at moving forward this other, because there was quite a lot in that other motion.
We've only just initiated discussions with Helping Hand, I believe, with regards to looking at some means of actually someone having responsibility for the tokens. So as with the needy individuals that need that assistance have access to those tokens. So I'll find out where those discussions are at. The site is usable, it has been used, and I think there's been some monies collected from the site. And how many, what's the usage to date so far? And we haven't
44.
have it-
$44 so far, so 22 showers to date. The signage just got put up the other day to make it more public as well, but to date, 22 showers.
That's great that it's being utilised. That's fantastic. I think we need to put a bit of context around this though, in terms of how long we're going to have this run for, this pilot, because there are lots of other towns that have similar needs, people have similar needs. So I'd like to see some more context around this and some criteria and an end point so we can get a report back to council. I don't know whether it's possible this year, if we've only just really started it, what that might look like.
Well, I think let's find out what the helping hand position is with regards to the process, and then perhaps we can determine is that going to be for a 3-month period, something like that. At the same time, we can be progressing the review of our buildings. It's all coming back to resourcing and having someone available to do that work. Because part of that is also to look at the overall upgrade of all our toilet facilities, to look at where they're all at, and to look at the further upgrade of the additional ones.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I think in order for that to progress, we need to have some criteria around this one to give us a bit of context about how this is going to all work, so we can then start progressing the other as well.
I'll have a chat with the project officer and we'll bring back some information perhaps in the next workshop if we can.
And I'd just like to also just say well done to the Longford District Committee for pursuing this issue. It's a really important issue for all of our communities. So we need to get this one right in order to make sure that we've got a good model moving forward for our other communities that are in need as well. So thank you to them for pursuing this issue. Okay.
Councillor Andrews, did you wish to speak on it? No. Councillor Adams.
I just, when we start talking about mobile phone, mobile showers, etc., we should probably explore some of the welfare groups or City Mission, Salvos. I mean, I think they have mobile facilities, which if we have an issue in one of the towns that make up the municipality, we could possibly talk to those organisations about assisting them with getting a mobile phone, a mobile shower into the areas.
Would you like to sum up, Councillor
Yeah.
Councillor Lambert, sorry.
Can I just answer that? Because I'm on the committee, the homelessness committee in Launceston, and they've been made aware that we're going through this process, and they are keen to chat to us about some of those processes that they've already been through and some of the things that some of the pitfalls and how we might go about it. So that's there when we're ready to take that on.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Information items, we need a mover and a seconder that they be received. Councillor Andrews and Councillor Lambert. Any questions, Councillor Terrett?
Just very quickly on the local government conference that took place. There was a good attendance, about 1/3 of the councillors in Tasmania were there, which makes it a very much a important conference to attend. And importantly, the Minister for Local Government raised a number of things that he will be doing in relation to the future of local government. There has not been an official announcement on some of these things, but in particular the Code of Conduct being reviewed, the introduction of a contribution plan, which I've been pushing for some time, if that comes off, and look forward to seeing it, and the impact of that conference in some of the resolutions that have been put up. I think it means that it shows the strength of putting motions from this council up to the local government conference and getting buy-in from the rest of the sector. And it'll be in the north next time, so I think it's a worthwhile one for all councillors to go to.
Councillor Adams and then Councillor Brooks.
Thank you. On the same subject as Councillor Terry. Yeah, it was a very good conference, I thought, and it covered many areas. Hobart City Council, we were in their patch, gave us a good overview, and that issue of services, they do a lot of things on the mountain, which is a joint process, and that they're talking to government, they've got tracks, bike tracks, walking tracks, whole range of things which benefit not only their ratepayers but everyone else. So this constant issue of where you're doing issues for tourism and you're making things happen through local government, but we don't get much recognition. There seems to be civil works panels for procurement coming, I think, so I'm not quite sure of all the details. We need to look at those. Also, the Minister mentioned that he's not doing a full rewrite of the Act, but he's dealing with some matters which are significant, especially health and safety, and that he'll be pursuing that in his work. So I think that's about. Thank you.
Councillor Brooks.
Just on information, 8.12, the resource sharing summary, is that a mistake? Because both units are exactly the same. So what we've provided to Meander Valley Council seems to be exactly the same as what they've provided to us. Is that just a coincidence or is it a mistake?
You have to check.
Take that on notice.
Take it on notice. Yeah, provide advice. Yeah.
Councillor Goss.
We just noticed there in the vandalism 8.13 that they've been taking the brass fittings, I assume they're brass fittings, from the Campbelltown Hall and the Perth. Is that a trend? Is there anything we can do that's $2,200 in 1 month? People knocking off the fittings. Is something we can do about that, or can we get them covered up, or I'm not sure, but it seems a lot in 1 month. Is it a trend?
Yes.
And just to let you know that it hasn't stopped. The last 3 days it's continued. Areas along Campbelltown Transfer Station where there's nothing about. All we've got to look at is putting trial cams up or anything, or Wi-Fi cameras, trying to catch the people. They've actually been going into public toilets as well, turning the water off and taking the taps out of there in daytime.
We had quite a serious episode, I think, in the last week. Would I be right in saying that with regards to Village Green? Someone breaking the push switch in one of the lights, and we nearly had a young one nearly electrocuted. So very lucky that that's all been reported. We're changing them all over, so someone intentionally damaged the push button.
Can I just ask about?
Councillor Lambert, you're next.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just in regard to our integrated priority projects, 5.3 Campbelltown Hall, I have been getting so many inquiries lately about the sale of the Campbelltown Hall and what's going on there. I'm just wondering whether we could get an update on what's happening there.
No, the only thing I can add is that we haven't really had any interest, but we did do a clean out at the hall of all the storage things that were underneath the hall. So I think that sparked a little bit of interest. People have thought that we've actually sold it, but we haven't.
Just on that then, is it time then to maybe go back to our real estate agents and see what's going on there? I'm not sure if we've got them under contract or what the situation is there, or whether we can mention it.
Madam Mayor, I think it's worth definitely going back, and I think it's definitely time for council perhaps to consider about the future of the building itself, because obviously it needs to have some ongoing maintenance to it, which will come at significant cost. That can't be, I don't believe that can be allowed to continue, the current look of the site. So I think, definitely we'll go back to the agents and see where it's at. If there's no real interest there, I think council needs to be advised of that provided that information, and then perhaps some advice with regard to the current state of the building.
Are we actually paying for that service at the moment? Because I'm asking for an update today. We haven't had an update for quite some time, so I hope we're not actually paying for that service.
I'm not aware of us paying for it.
Actually got a contractor
Okay.
appointed. We've just opened it out.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Adams, you wish to add something? You're right, covered it. Okay, I'll put the Councillor Andrews, sorry, I missed you.
I was just looking through the information items, and I've counted up 1, 2, 3, 4, I think, there might be more, items where we're waiting for a reply from State Growth on a number of fairly important matters, 7.12, 5.3.1, 14.1 and 16.1. Considering that we now have a new infrastructure minister, I would strongly suggest that we probably need to get in touch with our new infrastructure minister, a la the Premier, and introduce ourselves and ask him for his help in getting responses to long-standing issues from his department.
Thank you.
Before we get the opposition to ask the question.
Councillor Archer.
Let's go to the new minister and see
Yeah.
if he's working
Yep.
first.
Well, I'd just like to support what Councillor Andrews has said, and it became obvious at the public meeting that with over 10,000 vehicles using the road through Longford every day, and I've had some people talk to me about the ongoing danger at Sticky Beats Corner with cars coming from every direction, cars turning left into Wellington Street and another car suddenly appearing going straight ahead. I think it'd be prudent to have an updated traffic count on that road. 2022, I think, was the last one, and I'd consider, in my experience in the last 2 years, that it's become far worse. And I'd like to see an updated traffic count done if possible on that road. Thanks.
Well, we're still waiting for the report.
Yeah, well, that should be hopefully part of it, but
Okay, I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. It's a bit early for a public question time, so we move on to development services. 13.1. 13.1, page 66. As recommended, councillor Terrett's moving the recommendation and councillor Adams is seconding. Any discussion? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, the next one is 13.2, the policy update to the mobile food vendors. Councillor Terrett's moving the recommendation. Councillor Lambert is seconding. Any discussion? First of all, Councillor Terrett, do you wish to speak?
I'll hold on back.
Right. And Councillor Lambert, do you wish to say anything?
Oh, yes, I would like to say something. There's been quite a bit of angst in the community of Ross in particular regarding potential changes. I think there was some talk about it changing to 7 a.m. trading, and I can assure people in the community that the policy updates do not include opening up that time frame to 7 a.m. What we are proposing is to just move from 3:30 to 9:30, so from 3:30, so vendors have an opportunity to set up and get ready at that time only, and then to have that half an hour at the end of the day at 9:30 to pack up and to leave. So that sort of tightens things up a little bit.
It's
So
7 till 9, like it's 4 till 9, isn't it? So that from 9 onwards.
3:30.
3:30, yeah.
So 3:30 till 4 is set up, and then
Yes.
from 4 till 9
9 till
is,
9:30s.
and then from 9 till 9:30 is pack up. Yep.
Sorry.
So, no, that's okay. Sorry, I mustn't have been clear. Sorry, but that gives an opportunity for them to set up within that time. And I think we've had some incidents in some towns where perhaps some vendors have been sitting there for much longer than that. So we've tightened up the regulations and the rules a little bit. And I think what we've done is we've created a balance, but we've also created some very strict guidelines to make sure that the vendors are doing the correct thing. Because in particular in Ross, we have a few small businesses that struggled during the winter period, and we need to create that balance to make sure that they're still being able to run their businesses successfully and to cater for that. But the vans, we need to make sure that those timeframes are very strict and within that guideline. So the other thing that I would like to say is that, I've lost my train of thought here. I think the policy has tightened things up, and there's a balance there for the people who are in the town and in the community as well, running their businesses. So I hope that this will then allow council to be able to monitor the vendors, the van vendors, to make sure that they're abiding by these things. Yeah, that'll do for the moment, sorry.
Councillor Goss.
Yeah, I've had quite a few calls from people as well that are concerned about the food vans, and they run businesses in premises in towns, Longford and Perth and other places, and they've got quite high costs, and one of their concerns is that the food vendors in the vans don't have the costs that they've got, and that's one. And I noticed that we've got no costs highlighted in here. I have been told with officers there are some costs associated with it. But I think maybe we should need to increase those costs, and I'll talk about that in a moment. The other area also that I've had concerns about, and people have come to me talking about this, is the signage. For example, there's a sign taken down to the Blomford Main Street every day and put on the road, and wouldn't have permit to be there. Other businesses, permanent businesses in our community, they can't put sandwich boards out the front of their places and all that to do that. So I'm not sure why these food van cans. So I think we need to have a bit in there. I'm not sure about what number, but I'll say what number 5.3 is that no standalone sign are permitted with food vans. So it's just a heading signage. So I'd like to include that in. Can I make that as a
Well, the two parties have to agree to amend the policy as, recommendation as it is, or you move an amendment.
But can I first ask the council officer, he might be able to clarify that some food vendors may well have permits to have signs.
The mobile food vendors and fixed premises, long as they comply with Council's footpath trading bylaw, number 1 of 2022. If they comply with that bylaw, it would be compliant, and both mobile food vendors and fixed premises can abide by that and pay a certain fee for a sandwich board of a certain size.
So can I ask the officer then why they can put when they're down in Archer Street and they're bringing the sign up and put it on the main street, surely that wouldn't be, and they do it every night. I mean, it's not like they don't do it, and we must have quite a few council officers that drive past every day and see it. But I've had one person in particular that's complained about it because he's been fined many times for having his sign outside his business at Perth, and he can't understand why they can do it and there's no consequence, and he's been fined for it. So that's a bit we need to sort. And I think there should be something in there for signage. I think they've got their food vans, which are all coloured up. That should be as good a sign as anything. I think they shouldn't have signs willy-nilly all over the community.
Okay, Councillor Brooks is next.
Just a couple of things. I can't support this. I think it's just another way of getting an extra hour of the food vans. Like we say, set up between 3:30 and 4, but is there anything stopping the food van from coming there, opening the doors and starting to operate from 3:30? I don't think there is. So if there's a limited setup, he could potentially start selling goods at 3:30, and same at the other end. It's a sneaky way of extending it out for an hour. I think if we start extending it an hour, we'll be back here again in 12 months' time, we'll be extending another hour. It's not fair on the bricks and mortar businesses that these people blow into the town, they rape the money out of the town, they don't give anything back. There's local businesses in all of our municipalities that support the football club, they support the netball club, they support all these other clubs, yet we constantly give these food vans open slather. I know there is a restriction, but if we keep making it wider, it will be open slather, and we'll be all sitting around these tables wondering why we've got vacant shops in all these little towns in the municipality. One other thing I'd just like to ask for a clarification on is 5.2. In the time restrictions, it says mobile food vendors are not to operate on public roads within 100 metres of a residential dwelling. Now, 100 metres of a residential dwelling. If you go down into the Longford here, I'll use that one as an example, you've got residences directly across the road.
We've had this debate
Well, I'm wanting some clarification.
Our general manager will explain it. Council Officer?
Will explain, and also about the times too, was the times are fixed between 4 and 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so to go back to the times there to start with, so the current policy at the moment says that between the hours of 10 p.m. And 7 a.m. Well, you're not allowed to operate, you can only operate between 4 and 9. So they contradict, so you can only operate between 4 and 9. So the second time between 10 and 7 doesn't need to be there because you can only operate between 4 and 9. In relation to within 100 metres of a residential dwelling, so the policy has got the preferred or designated areas that council has chosen, and for the Village Green or Victoria Square down here in Longford, yes, there is residential dwellings over the road, but the policy also stipulates that applications to park outside of these designated or preferred locations will be considered, however may be refused if considered suitable. So let's say, for instance, a food van or truck decide to come and park in Saundridge Road, for instance, and they come to apply to council and said, I'd like to park it there. It's within 100 metres of a residential dwelling. Council would say, no, you need to be over 100 metres. So for that instance, if council approved of that location. So that's why it brings that residential area to stop a food van parking in a side street within 100 metres of that dwelling. But it's got the designated areas. Yes, there is some residential dwellings in Victoria Square Village Green, but they're the preferred designated areas that council's chosen.
Can I clarify for you?
Does it stop though from a food van from coming at 3:30, open up the shutters and start selling food right from 3:30? That's what I want to know. And can they then go on the back end of it and sell right till 9:30, shut the door and gone?
No, the time changes, well not time change, time inclusions that have been put in there is for pack up or mobilisation and demobilisation because it's been brought to officers' attention from the general public that some people are setting up a lot earlier than 4 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And some tucker trucks or vans are staying overnight in that location. The current policy doesn't have any of those provisions to police that because they parked in the street. They're not trading. So those times give council some enforcement around that. Council, if they choose, may want to bring that back or not bring it back, or just keep it at 4 and 9. So there is no pack up or set up time. That's up to council to make that decision.
But are we going to be policing that?
When officers or council get a complaint, we will go out and police that item.
Councillor Andrews?
I just think that we should be a little bit flexible in our thinking about this rather than an open and shut case in terms of defending our shopkeepers. I'm a huge supporter of small business. I ran a small business myself for a long time. I grew up in a small business. I'm right behind small business, but our ratepayers and residents really enjoy food vans visiting our various towns and they look forward to it. And most of the time that they're around, our small businesses are closed. They've already closed. And it just gives people another option for getting something to eat at Longford or Ross or wherever. So I don't think we should be too black and white on this. We need to be a little bit flexible in just at least encouraging people like this to be around at some stage, rather than telling them all to go away. We don't want them in the Northern Midlands municipality.
Councillor Goss, you've already spoken, I'm afraid. Councillor
I'm just
Terry?
going to ask about moving the, putting to the mover and the seconder about the signage. You didn't ask the mover second, so if they support that.
The changes in signage, you mean? There's already mention of signage in the policy. You're asking for changes to
I
that?
think it should be clear in the policy. There's no indication in this policy about signage, and I believe it should be clear in there.
Ensure they have approval to erect any signage or furniture associated with their business in accordance with the council's footpath trading laws.
Yes, they have to apply by the footpath trading law.
Just that no one enforces
Yes.
it, Richard. That's
And if there's complaints put in, they will be followed up.
We don't enforce.
Councillor Archer, you haven't spoken yet.
Look, I think after hearing that there's not been a proliferation of food vans, in other words, it's a fairly static market, I think the move we've made is worth trialling. I do agree it's going to require management. Yes, bricks and mortar buildings should be supported, and that's why I don't support, for example, opening any earlier. But also, we've got to realise that places change. And for example, if a town has no shops, well, food vans would be essential. So we've got to be prepared to change on a basis where people will still invest in businesses. But as Councillor Andrews says, that ratepayers and residents do have some options. So I don't think this is going to be a situation where our policy will be long-term. We will be constantly looking at changing it. But we've got to have, for investment in our towns, fairly strong regulation of the existing rules. And I think that's critical.
Councillor Terrett, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, just summing up. This policy gives some certainty to particularly the small businesses in all our towns, and I concur with Councillor Brooks in relation to we've got to look after those that are paying rents and mortgages and employing people, because if they go, towns tend to die. And we've already seen the petrol pump in Ross, the chap there, that's now ceasing. There's food outlets in Evandale that's no longer there. But we also have to be mindful of allowing people to set up new businesses, and sometimes that's setting up by a van to see if it works in there. And I've noticed in the one in Perth, we quite often get the fish and chip person down at the railway park, just to give variety to people. This policy, I think, goes a lot of the way to certainty for those small businesses who invest in our towns, that the council is there, that are aware that there is, life's hard out there for a small business, and we've got to be somewhat responsive to them. But we also have to be responsive to the needs of our community, and I think this is a good, happy medium between those. Certainly, if people want to set up a food van, it means that a food van will operate between 4 and 9 o'clock at night. If somebody wants to set up for some special event, such as Revive a Survivor, there is also the ability to apply to council or in a different location like Canara, for example, if somebody wants to set up there. That doesn't stop food vans from operating across the board. It means that you can make an application to council. This is quite a flexible policy in general, but I think we have to be mindful of our businesses who invest in our community and make policies accordingly to encourage more business to come and stay and expand.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Councillor Brooks is against. Everybody else is in favour. The motion's carried. Okay, we're going to go back to public question and statement time. That's page 32. Okay, is there any member of the public here who would like to ask a question or make a statement that's not to do with planning? Something that's outside of our two planning items? Yes?
It's to do with planning as well as the public meeting. So how do you want to handle that?
Well, it's not to do with these planning items, so you may well, yes, you've got 3 minutes to speak. Just state your name and address.
John Assard, 44 Wellington Street.
Thank you.
About 350 Longford ratepayers turned up in wet and windy conditions to consider or vent their frustrations and opposition to the proposed BP Tannery Road development. The event managed to get a few lines on page 9 at the back of the North Midlands Courier, but absolutely nothing in the North Midlands meeting agenda. So therefore, I think it's quite relevant for me to tell you about the meeting and also the wash up from the planning application. This motion passed 349 votes to 1. This meeting calls upon the Premier of Tasmania to request immediately that State Parliament moves to reopen the July 2024 TASCAT appeal proceedings regarding the proposed development on 26A Tannery Road, Longford, for B double truck and other vehicle refuelling. that the above TASCAT proceedings are to be a full hearing at the tribunal, so evidence previously denied can be submitted by the North Midlands Council and other interested parties. The second motion, that in the event the State Parliament of Tasmania orders the reopening of the TASCAT proceedings, this meeting requests the North Midlands Council to brief senior counsel, legal counsel and planning experts to prefer an adequate and vigorous defence of the above hearing. I don't want to go into the ifs and buts about what happened with the planning application and the TASCAT hearing, but what did surface was that the Deputy President of the Tribunal issued a statement or an order that read, I am satisfied that the proposed settlement is not inconsistent with any act, that it will not materially prejudice any person who is not a party, and that the terms of the settlement are not inappropriate. Those three statements we believe are totally wrong.
You've had your 30 minutes, I'm afraid.
Well, I think, could I just indulge you, because I think it's
very, very quick.
I think it's important that I just say this, because we did turn out and get a great crowd, and I think in due respect to them, I should just go on a bit more.
I'll move an extension of an extra
You're
2 minutes.
moving for an extension?
I'd second that,
Okay,
yes.
that's, all right. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Carried
Okay.
ahead.
It can be taken from this statement that parts of the state planning scheme should be taken into consideration by planning officers sitting as the local planning authority. And the three above issues, that is, it is the proposed development is in conflict in any Tasmanian legislation. I don't believe this takes place at the local planning authority meetings. In other words, the planning scheme is treated as a holy writ and other aspects are not taken into consideration, such as other laws and legislation. And what I'm suggesting to you is that could you ensure or try and ensure that acts of Parliament which are in conflict with the state planning scheme are always taken into consideration. And these are things like the EPA, the Mines Act, Explosive Act, and a whole range of other legislation under the LUPA, which might be in conflict with the planning scheme. In other words, quite often you look at what colours on a map, oh, that's general business, it's painted red, so therefore such and such. Well, there are other aspects of planning that should be considered. The planning scheme is an inferior act, it's not a superior act. Other acts override the state planning scheme. Then it says, it does not materially prejudice any person who is not a party. Prior to the 2022 scheme, the new scheme being introduced, the Tannery Road development could not have proceeded because it was in conflict with amenity. The amenity of other people. In other words, there was a clause in the scheme that said you cannot conduct fuel depot, it didn't say fuel depot, but that type of business if it interfered with the amenity. And the amenity was for both people driving on Tannery Road and the people in Kingsley House. And what this actually means is, strangely enough, is that the Deputy President of the Tribunal has reintroduced amenity as an issue, because in his finding, he has said that it does not prejudice any person who is not a party. Well, that was the amenity.
I'm afraid if you've argued
Okay.
double the time, that's going to have to do. And I think they get the.
I'll send you all an email. Thank
They
you.
get the message loud and clear.
We may ask that the
Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. The two motions that were passed at the public meeting could be tabled with the, and go into the minutes from, out of that, is that? Then it'll be in the record for historical reasons.
Councillor Goss.
I'll ask
Yes.
Mr. Isaac a question, is that okay? Mr. I just wondered if you had any feedback from the Premier yet?
I believe the Premier's answer is imminent. In the event that it's, which we expect it to be no, the various members of State Parliament are going to try and have a select committee to investigate the whole process, including state growth involvement, the Local Government Act regarding restricting councillors to have a say on certain matters, and also the EPA. And in other words, it's going to open a whole can of worms.
Thank you.
Minute.
Okay, is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak but not to do with planning?
Food vans.
Yes, you've got 3 minutes. Just state your name and address, please.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Ian South and I live at 4 Church Street in Ross, Tasmania. Recently moved there about 3 months ago. I actually wrote a letter to council requesting an alteration to the times of food vans. This is brought about through, Ross is a beautiful town, we love it, that's why we moved there. On a Monday and a Tuesday, at the moment there is only one food shop that's open, that is a bakery. Now they are relocating across the road shortly and they're not going to be doing food for a little while, I believe. On Mondays and Tuesdays the other bakery is closed. So the option is very, very limited. Now my background is I'm a qualified chef, I know what I'm doing as far as food goes. I would just like to see the opportunity to have a different food available in Ross other than baked goods. I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. As I said, I live in Ross, my wife lives in Ross, we just love it. We just want to see the town progress. And at the moment, we don't believe that there is a large enough variety of food in Ross as it is at the moment. I don't want an open slather on food vans. In the council states that opposite 34 is where a food van can actually be established. I have had my muffin van there, but I've actually also got a big commercial kitchen as I'm a chef, and I want to start doing dinners as well. I just would like to give the people of Ross another variety of food. I don't want to travel anywhere else. My heart is Ross, and I just want to see Ross prosper and go ahead. If the council decides no, it's still from 4 o'clock, no problems at all. I honour what council says. I just wanted you to be aware that we've only got one food vendor open on a Monday and a Tuesday. Of an evening, Wednesday night to Sunday night, the hotel is open, and that's basically it in Ross. I believe giving another option will bring more people in, not necessarily take away business from Bakery 31 or whichever other business is actually open on a Monday and a Tuesday. I'd just like council to consider this, and yeah, as I said, I'll abide by council's decisions. I'm not trying to upset anybody, I'm just trying to give a variety of food. I did originally speak to the local council there, the meeting, and I laid it all on the table there. Everybody was in favour of it. Since then, though, different businesses have said they're not in favour of it anymore, so I can't change anybody's mind. I'm not trying to upset the apple cart. I want to retire in Ross. My wife wants to retire in Ross. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the community who wishes to speak on something that's not related to our planning items? No? Okay, we'll move into planning. So we'll move into second to planning. Councillor Terrett and Councillor Archer. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, is there anybody in the community, in the public, who would like to speak on planning 1, which is 30 Marlborough Street, Longford? No? Okay, is there anybody in the public who would like to speak on planning 2, which is 102 Marlborough Street, Longford?
I actually just submitted a written.
Yeah, you've got 3 minutes to speak if you wish to read it out.
Prepared for this.
So just state your name and address and you can read, you're happy to.
Colleen Newman,
Yes.
57 Hillhouse Street, Longford. In regard to planning to go for a stormwater, to go through my property. My property was never on the agenda previously in a previous plan, but now Wilson Homes have come up with this latest option, and now it's possibly going to come through my property. The previous plan was to go through number 55, which is my next door neighbour, and he objected to having a manhole, stormwater manhole up his drive. Hence now it's come and they're looking at my property. So number one, I put, I want to put a garage up, and if there's a 2 metre easement down the back of the property at the moment, and if there's any stormwater works go through, there's a possibility of it being extended, the easement, so that'll jeopardise the impending garage or the planning for the garage. Number two, there's another option to go up my neighbour's drive, up number 55. It's a gravel drive at the moment, so I don't know. I just can't see why it's all of a sudden turned around to becoming an option for me for number 57, and having all the vegetation dug up down the backyard. And we've just had a new fence put through, 35 metres, and it's the amount of clay and old pipework, etc. It's taken me many, many weekends to the tip to clean all that up, and I just hate the thought of more disruption to the vegetation. Another option is there's a stormwater manhole on the main street, which is where these 6 units, the main drive comes out. That's another option. It's just right on the drive, so I mean it wouldn't affect the neighbours at all if Wilson Homes went that way. That's pretty much it. I tried to do it. I tried to describe it as best I could in a representation, which was sent to you guys on the 2nd of September. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did our planner wish to make any comment?
Not in particular to that, but our works manager may.
Stormwater going out the front, I think that didn't have the capabilities to carry that much water with the street water as well. That's why the option was going out through the back. When it goes out the front, the curb and channel actually already floods in an event, and putting more water out there just couldn't cope. So the water's got to go all the way back down to your place, I suppose. So they're going the shortest route to keep the water flow.
In the first plan, it was just in number 55. He objected to a manhole. Now it's impacting on my property.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, that's just the way we have to abide by the planning rules and planning schemes. So we have to abide by what our officers inform us. So we're going to move into we're going to discuss it now, and after when we start, you won't be able to say anything else, I'm afraid.
Okay. All right. Yep.
Okay. Planning one is multiple dwellings, 30 Marlborough Street, Longford. Councillor Goss, you're moving the recommendation, are you?
Yeah, I'd like to have some discussion about it. Well, I
We
move
need
recommendation.
a mover and a seconder of a recommendation first.
I'll move recommendation and.
And Councillor Adams is seconding. Councillor Goss, you can speak. Yes, Councillor
Oh,
Goss.
sorry, I didn't see that. My biggest concern about this one, no problem what they're going to do, no dramas at all, but my biggest concern is the driveway coming out onto the main road. When you come out of this driveway, because of the building which is right next door to it, you can't, your nose of your vehicle is on the footpath before you can even see anybody walking down the footpath. And I read the traffic report and there was no indication of that. All they worried about was the people walking down the driveway back into the units down the back. But to me, the biggest risk was people walking in front of the shop, coming out of the shop door, walking across the driveway, and a car comes out and is splattered. And I can't see any way that it was addressed. In the traffic management report, it says on page 79 that the traffic on the driveway will be at 10 kilometres per hour, and Mr. Midson who wrote the report says that it'll take at 10 kilometres per hour, it'll take 4.5 metres for the car to stop. Well, if the car's doing 10 kilometres per hour and someone comes out of that shop site, 4.5 metres are going to be in the back of the car, they're going to be run over. So, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. However, what I would like to do, I'm not sure if this is possible, I'll take some advice from the officer, but I already think maybe if there was a speed hump put at the end of the driveway to slow down the traffic before it goes into out on the street, actually to slow them down, because I can see we're going to have could have potential risk there with cars coming out and people being run over because there isn't any room. I think I couldn't actually see anyone coming out from the shop when I came out of the driveway to look at it. So I wonder if the officer give me some advice whether we can actually make that a condition, that a speed hump, or I don't know if the speed hump's the answer, but some kind of way to retard the vehicles when they come out onto the footpath, because it just needs to slow down a little bit, or to give them something to think about before they just punch their nose out onto the footpath, someone coming out of the shop or someone walking down the street, they're going to get splattered by the cars coming out. You definitely can't see to the right at all. There's a little bit of room to the left, but none to the right.
Nana?
I'm happy to answer that one, but I might also call on our manager Works for some additional comments. In relation to that particular issue, looking right, the sight distance, the proposed mirror was one of council's recommendations to improve the sight visibility around the shop, the Indian takeaway that's there, and the installation of the large pot plant essentially would push pedestrian traffic coming out of that business further into the line of sight of the vehicles as they approach. Now, typically speaking, in those sorts of instances, when you are approaching, it's kind of similar to coming out of the vet sort of thing. You do naturally go quite slow, and you are correct that your nose is essentially out before you can actually see around. But those provisions that have been proposed in the recommendations for the mirror and for the pot plant are proposed to assist in that. Now, if council wants to take a step further and impose further, to use your wording, retarding measures for slowing the speed, you could definitely consider that. As to its necessity and things, unfortunately, not being a traffic engineer, I probably can't comment on whether it's necessary and would stand up if challenged, but I think the intent of slowing down the traffic is a good one. That's where I might return to the manager of Works if there's other options.
I think the flower pot out the front was actually to give the length of your nose out, so you actually weren't sitting out just past the vehicle. You've actually got the people walking, I suppose, to the north had that option a bit further. They'll be further out in the street, so you should see the vehicle both ways. Speed humps can work to a certain thing. We've still got to look at access for people going back in here on foot or prams or wheelchairs or anything like that. So it depends on what sort of buildings it's got to be access for all, and you probably a speed hump in that position probably won't work as well.
I'll just speak a bit further, just a bit more. The driveway measurement is 3.1 metres. I looked at the other driveways, the vets and that kind of stuff. They've got about 3.9 metres, so it's much wider. So there's more room to get over towards the side away from the thing. So the other businesses in the street, which have got the same kind of issues, but they're existing businesses, but they've got wider accesses. This one's a very, very narrow access. And the other thing about the pot plant sounds a good idea, and may work, but what about if someone small behind the pot plant? Will you see them? It's a pot plant got to make restrict for them. You know, I'm not sure. Are we talking about a little pot plant, or are we talking about a big pot plant that used to be up the street? So I'm a bit worried about that. I'm quite happy to move the recommendation and put that addition in there for some kind of speed retardant in the driveway to slow them down, whether it's a speed hump or I'm not sure what they use. I'm quite happy to include that.
What about a 5 km/h sign?
Maybe a 5 km/h sign, but I don't know how much that would. People wouldn't take a lot of notice, possibly, because we've got no power over 5 km/h.
Yes.
it's got to be very similar to the Blenheim Hotel. If you look on the northern driveway, that's got the pot plant out the front there. That's for the same reason. You can't see to your right when you come out. So it just gives your nosing a bit extra length. I'd say there'd be more vehicles coming out of the Blenheim Hotel of a day than out of the unit development.
And sorry, Madam Mayor, can I just make a quick comment? And also with the hump, if council was to go away and put in a speed hump in, it would have to meet the actual access requirements. So it may not be as big as short a hump as you would like. It may have to be feathered out more so prams and others can access. So in other words, vehicles may still actually access that area quite quickly if they wish to. You hope not, but they still could. So you couldn't just put a lump in. It would have to go into appropriate traffic management standard.
Okay, Councillor Adams, you're next.
Yeah, and sometimes humps can make you have to get up to get over, and with these driving, you're liable to go faster or something as you get over them. Yeah, I was concerned about it, but I mean the mirror I think is a very good option, and as long as they're maintained properly, whatever. I think I mentioned in our workshop that coming out of the vets, right next to the newsagent wall, just like coming out of the Blenheim. These are issues because the buildings are what they are and been there for a long time. So, and I think the foot plant, having the pot plant will allow give you an opportunity. But speed is a very important aspect. Vehicles should be coming out of there just creeping.
Councillor Archer.
I think we do have a couple of precedents there. I know coming out of the Blenheim, there's a sign there saying beware of pedestrians to try and make traffic slow down as they nose out. I think the 5 kilometre an hour sign is worthwhile doing. But also perhaps a sign, not just a pot plant, but a sign somehow with the pot plant warning pedestrians of entering vehicles. I think that's another option as well because, yes, obviously children mightn't read it, but if you've got all the combination of those 3 factors, I think that potentially could make the that difficult issue safer.
Do these, if we did want them, have to be added to conditions?
Just looking if there's enough leniency in the condition as it's worded.
While you're looking at that, Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to vote against this, and I know I can't with my planning authority hat on, but I'm going to do as a statement anyway, because I believe that council are knowingly, if we pass this, passing a situation, knowing that it's a dangerous situation. That's exhibited by all the talk about all the sorts of things that we can do to make the dangerous situation less dangerous. Put a pot plant up, speed humps, whatever. So we acknowledge already that this is a dangerous situation, and it's a dangerous situation because the laneway is very narrow. It comes out onto one of the busiest parts of our main road. The traffic around the news agency and the vet, etc. It's one of the busiest parts of the main road. And I can't in all conscience vote for something that I know is going to be dangerous, not just for pedestrians, for people coming in and out, and for people that are trying to go past on the road. I can't vote for something that is going to create a dangerous situation in our main street.
Councillor Terry, you haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, just in relation to the stormwater and some of the points that Ms Newman raised.
That's for the next
one.
Next
sorry.
one.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes. You'll get the chance to sum up in a minute,
No,
Councillor.
I'm going to withdraw. I moved the motion. I'm going to withdraw it because it doesn't look like we're going to get a speed hump or no way to retard
We're
them.
just going to ask that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just going to ask that. What sort of conditions can we add?
Just having a look at how the condition's worded, you could potentially alter the second paragraph in condition 2.2 to include the addition of a sign, whether that's a 5 kilometre or something like that, to the satisfaction of council. It is worded currently that the applicant shall install a large plant pot similar to the pot at the access of the Blenheim Inn car park. On the footpath beside the access, the purpose of the pot is to direct pedestrians away from the area of limited vision for exiting vehicles. Prior to the installation of the pot, the applicant must provide details to council for approval. You could word something in there to add a sign as well if you chose to.
So the mover and seconder, councillor Goss and councillor Adams, would you like that added as a condition?
Yes.
That there is a 5 km/h speed sign?
Yep.
The movers as well needs to agree.
Yeah, and I think for the speed hump or condition which is around should be a part of that. It says hump. Is there another word we can use other than just having the hump?
We haven't agreed to the speed. This is only about a sign,
To slow,
not the speed hump.
it's sort of a restrictive, it's about slowing down to make sure, I mean, anyone coming out of there would be creeping out of there if you're a sensible driver. And, you know, if you're in charge of a motor vehicle, it's your responsibility. If you knock someone over, I mean, you know, you need to take that responsibility.
Okay, councillor Goss.
I just can't read what they said.
Oh, okay. I'll add that, as well as the actual recommendation, add in addition to the conditions, the applicant shall install further speed reduction measures, including a speed limit sign 5 km/h at the interjunction of the street frontage.
And what about a speed hump or something retarded? It's not there.
We don't believe that will.
Because it's not there, I'll withdraw my motion to move it. Someone else be able to
We
move
can always vote against. So can someone move their, yes.
Yeah.
So what happens there?
Well, we just need to move them to second.
You know, I'll move it.
Councillor Adams is moving. I need a seconder now for a motion. Councillor Archer. Okay, Councillor Adams.
Who I've spoken, I've spoken, so.
Yes. Councillor Archer, did you wish to say something else?
Oh, obviously, as Councillor Adams says, drivers have a duty of care. I think the 5 km/h, if it's not followed and someone is hit, well, that's their responsibility. Obviously, as Councillor Andrews says, we are dicing with an accident. Vehicles turning in might find a vehicle coming out, they won't be able to turn in. So all these issues there are precedents right through Longford where this has been allowed to happen. So I just can't see how we can vote against it when other situations are already in existence. And basically the laws say that adequate measures are in place for the traffic. So.
Councillor Brooks.
Talking with the planning hat on, I do understand there's a similar situation at the Blenheim, coming out of the Blenheim, it's probably a busier road there, and the vets as well. I'm not sure if we've had anyone ever knocked over, not to my knowledge, maybe, but, you know, it happens all through the municipality, and some onus has got to be put on the drivers. You know, we can't go knocking developments back you know, because someone might think that it's a it's a risk to a pedestrian when we've got advice from officers that it's not. So I'll be supporting the application.
Any further discussion, councillor Goss?
And I've had a fair talk and I don't want to take it long, but just, there's no picture of the shop frontage in here where the people come out of their doorway. But I don't believe there's any room between the front door of the shop coming out the door and the driveway to put a pot in there. The door's right on the...
No, it's on the other side.
Right on that side.
It's on the southern side of the shop front.
Isn't the door to the...
Curry shop.
Isn't the door
One
to
at a time,
the
councillor
curry shop
Goss.
on the
We
northern
need to
side?
be clear on where this.
Southern side.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
All right, okay.
That's right.
Councillor Lambert.
Thank you.
More curry.
I would really like to say I don't support this. However, the discretionary application, the aspects of this application, I think have been addressed. I'm concerned about the hydro pole and the vision there. I'm hoping that the mirror is going to address that. I'm concerned about the traffic coming in and out. Obviously, I support what everyone's been saying here. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about coming out into such a busy part of the street, in Marlborough Street there, with the newsagents. I think there's going to be some real issues there. I think we're going to have to take some... I think I think what the officers have done is as much as we can do under the planning scheme to make this as safe as possible. I don't like the plan, but I think it's been addressed as best as possible. I think we also need to do some education around making people aware that there is a change in circumstances in that particular spot, because people get about their day, they're busy, they pull into their parks, they go and do their business, they pull out and they go again. I don't know whether that means, you know, once these if this gets passed, whether these units, whether we need to do some advertising just to make people aware, let it drop. I don't know how we do that, whether it's something in the courier or what, I'm not sure. But I think we need to build awareness in our community that there is a massive change there, because there is going to be, 36 or 34 more different movements in and out of that space in a day, which I think is quite a bit when it comes to navigating your way onto the street or coming off the street. I can just see there's going to be confusion with people coming in and out of that space if they come in together. You're driving into that driveway, for example, someone's coming out, you've got to back out into Marlborough Street. That's really dangerous. So, although I don't think we've got any grounds to dismiss it, because I think the traffic things have been addressed in the report, I think I actually have no choice but to pass this with all of those, the signs. Was the hump put in there? I hope.
No. Put it in.
Okay.
Everything else, pretty much.
Right. Maybe, is that grating stuff? There's some corrugated stuff that you can put on the roads that, it's like the stuff that's on the side of the roads. Like if you veer off the road, it alerts you. Maybe something like corrugated to slow, and the vehicle can feel it, so they slow down. Maybe something like that might work.
Comment from the Works Manager.
I'm only concerned about the noise it's going to make for the neighbouring properties.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but I'm just trying to find a way that we can ensure that people will be fully aware that there's a real change there and that they need to be careful. Like everyone has to take responsibility in that spot, pedestrians, vehicle users. So we've got mirrors, we've got pot plants, we've got signage, we've got all sorts of things, but I think we also need to be doing some sort of education as well. And I don't know whether that can be put in there as a, yeah.
Yes.
But we do need to make people aware that there is, if this gets up tonight, that there's going to be a big change in that space.
Councillor Adams, do you wish to sum up?
Okay, I will sum up. I guess just like if this truck's fuel stop goes down on Tannery Road, we'll need to do some education there because B-double's turning in there and everything else. So, you know, there's a constant traffic issues, and you go down to IGA and the United Servo. I mean, there's some pretty, and there's quite often a few bangs there. We've never addressed that up at Sticky Beaks Corner. There's a fair few bangs take place there as well. They're all traffic management issues that need to be dealt with, but we don't see them. We've had 2.5 years, I think, with state growth not coming back. They're supposed to have a report. You know, these things happen, but you've got to deal with what you've got to deal with. There's a development here that I think is a reasonable development. People want to live in the heart of town so they can walk to shops and things like that. So this gives people the opportunity to live within the town, and I think that's an important issue. So I, hope people will support it.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Okay, hands up against, please. Councillor Andrews and Councillor Goss are against. The motion's carried. Okay, planning 2 is multiple dwellings, 102 Marlborough Street, Longford. And there's a recommendation there that with application to develop and use the land at 102 Marlborough Street, Longford for multiple dwellings, 6 stormwater works through 55 and 57 Hobhouse Street, Longford be approved subject to following conditions. I need a mover and a seconder before we can discuss. Councillor Terrick's moving the recommendation that's there. Yes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Adams. Okay, Councillor Terrett, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to, speaking in relation to this, some of the points that Ms Newman has raised, I think is pertinent. The reasons why those decisions to go through the property is, and I think we've discussed some things in the workshop beforehand, but also why the reason, the clear reason why we're doing that, or why we're going down that direction. I think if I could ask the planner.
Yes, planner or the works manager? Works manager?
So for the stormwater, it's actually the better flow. If it comes into a manhole, it will come into a T-junction. If it comes in with a 45-degree bend, it actually flows with the water. So your best outcome for flow is to do a 45-degree bend and keep it moving. It's the fastest way to get rid of your stormwater.
Yes.
The suggestion to run it through the driveway of 55, would that work still? I'm just thinking whether that is an option.
It's 90.
90, is it?
It's about a 90.
Well, sorry. It's still coming down 55. It's just the last piece goes through to 57.
You mean the northern piece? Last piece, you mean the northern piase or the?
Yeah, the northern piece, sorry, yes.
It sounds like it's going down that driveway.
Something that's asked before about an easement. If the easement, does the easement have to become larger? That was a question. I heard that statement before.
Yeah, the representative was concerned about the easement becoming larger, wider.
So they wouldn't be able to put their garage there. Is that the case? I'm sorry, I don't know that part of it. Sorry, I put that back on here, Brandy.
I would have put that onto you, so touche. My understanding is that depending on the width of the pipe or the size of the pipe, describes the easement from the centre of the pipe. So I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe the standard sort of pipe width is, easement width is 1.5 metres from centre of pipe, depending on how deep it is and things like that. So I believe it's forgive me, I can't recall the legislation off the top of my head, but it might even be standard drawings or something like that that prescribes those recommended easements. I believe from past experience that easements can be narrowed at the discretion of an authority, but that might be something that we need to look into further, as it's not my area of expertise. It's just my understanding.
We're looking at it now. Yes.
Probably
Sorry.
beneficial to bring up the plan in attachment of 126. It'll show the existing, there's two manholes in the rear of that lot, number 57, and it might clear it up a little bit.
Can you make it bigger too, boys?
Yes. So can our officers point out to which plan is the best one to have up? Keep going.
Page 126 of the attachments.
Oh, thank you.
That's
That
it.
one. So if you can centre that, because it does include the subject site to the south and
Yeah.
so just for context, the red line that you're looking at along the bottom of the screen there, that is almost like sort of like the property boundary of where the units are going. So the green SW line going straight up, sort of north-south, I believe that's number 55, and then we're at 45's off, just sort of towards the top of the screen. That's number 57, so that's the area of works. So you can see that there was the existing stormwater pipe there. I believe it's connecting into there, if I'm reading that correctly.
I can't follow it. Can someone point to it, please?
Yeah, the issue is whether we're going to stop somebody building a garage too. I mean,
That's what we're trying to do up.
So coming up to there, so this is the driveway of number 55, and it's going to then go on a 45-degree angle to there. So that's an existing manhole for sewer, I believe. Yeah.
So is it, the width of it obviously is what's going to impinge on the possible future development of a garage?
Potentially, if that is the existing stormwater line shown there and there's an existing manhole, if I can, bear with me 1 second, I'll just grab up the servicing plans on our map. It might be that those works are potentially already captured within the existing easements. I'd say that's more likely the case.
Well, that'll give our representative more confidence in where this shed can go. And is there any way we can make sure, once we know what the situation actually is, that the representative can be given some information about what is likely to happen on their property?
I believe the manager of works may be able to comment as to when we install services that become public. If we're doing the works, what notification is involved in that?
You'd have to have notification to go onto the property, let people know.
And then the representative would have an awareness of what is going to happen and how big it's going to be.
You would know exactly where it's going and the alignment, that it would need to be shown.
And that's probably the best we can do. Councillor Andrews.
In that situation, does the representative have any ability to negotiate with what's going on? So, for instance, if she wants to build a garage, can she say, can you move it this way a little bit so I can still build my garage?
With that, Brandy's just starting to have a look at the manhole and the stormwater line there, might be already saying you can or can't do it.
They're located within easements.
If they're already there,
Yeah.
if they're already there, it's
Yeah,
already
it's
done.
there.
They look like
I think
they
the
are.
issue was whether the easement was going to be expanded.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
That's what the issue, I think, that's correct, that's going to be expanded, possibly.
So the plan is not able to say whether it's likely to be expanded?
Am I allowed to point my bit?
Yes, by all means.
I'm going to grab the stick if that's
Yes.
okay.
Just stick that
Just don't touch it.
It's like playing
School, okay.
Masters Arcade.
So this is the existing sewer line that comes up and does a right angle through here. So I haven't got copies of the property titles, but in theory, if not prescribed on the titles, there would be inferred easements. Typical rule would be 3 metres, 1.5 either side of the centre of the pipe. So I don't have anything scale. So there would be an easement running along here already that then comes up and goes along here, similar with the existing stormwater. So it's possible that these works would create an additional easement, but probably only just this additional area. Sorry, I did touch that. Just where that green is transecting across, because there's already protection over here and there's already protection over here, so it would just be that back corner bit there.
To the left there's another manhole, isn't there?
Yes, but I believe that's if I'm reading the plans right, I believe that's the existing stormwater manhole. It seems that might be the manhole, but it's on our maps. It's showing that that's essentially where the stormwater line is. So I'm not sure if that's accurate or if that's accurate, but I'm not sure how those information is gathered. But from what I can see on the service maps, that looks to be the location of the existing stormwater that runs.
I think
East-west.
that sort of information is important, gets to the representative. So Councillor Andrews, have you finished? Yes. Councillor Lambert is next.
I didn't have my hand.
Oh, I thought you did.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Might be Councillor Archer and then Councillor Brooks.
Look, I think we're talking here about the issue is flow and easement. So if the 90-degree angle going onto Hophouse Street restricts flow enough to need this 45-degree diversion, that diversion must, I consider, follow an existing easement, and if not, those people have got a right not to have that. And so they might need to do a 45-degree dogleg, but still have a 90-degree in Hophouse Street. And the only other option I can see to get the flow is to increase the size of the pipe. Now, if that easement is going to be extended and the landowner does not agree to it and restricts their ability to put a garage in that corner, well, I think the council has to rethink the size of the pipe to get the flow through a 90-degree corner. I can't see any other option. I know you discussed the size of the pipe needed to be expanded anyway, so maybe it just needs to be a bigger pipe.
Don't forget though, we were advised that a bigger pipe might be a wider easement.
Well, it's not the wider easement where there's already an easement, but it's the fact that little 45-degree piece may not even be within an existing easement. So I'm not sure where we stand with that.
Planner, yes.
Well, I believe a lot of the works are still going to be protected, whether that's the manhole is in the wrong location or the stormwater line is in the wrong location. They'd still be within the easement. We're not talking about a huge area here that would be an increase to that. And the other point I wanted to raise, based on our internal discussions through the referral process when this application was referred to our Works and Infrastructure crew as the Stormwater Authority and the Road Authority, the comments brought back, it was raised about the representation and about the concerns and why we're not continuing just impacting one property instead of allowing it to impact two. And it came down at the end of the day to forgive me, I'm not actually sure if Cameron's
Engineering supervisor.
Engineering supervisor with quite a lot of stormwater experience, he's sort of our expert on staff, that though it's not ideal for the owners, it is a better strategic outcome from the Stormwater Authority to have the more transition flow as opposed to the 90-degree, because it's not just the subject site that stormwater will be directed to there. This will also allow more properties from the south to connect into that pipe and extend.
Councillor Brooks.
We were talking about this a good while ago. I thought that we talked about running it out to Marlborough Street with a stormwater detention basin, a stormwater detention pit and pumped out. But is that an expensive exercise for the developer, and then it doesn't affect anyone?
The Works Manager.
Yeah, I think we've got a policy on no pump systems.
Well, we have got pump systems, haven't we?
Previously, yeah, but we don't have pump systems no more. We had put a policy in to have no pump systems.
Because it wouldn't affect any property owner then, and you pump it straight out to Marlborough Street. In this situation.
But when you go out to Marlborough Street, the water can't handle it out there now. Actually, the roadway actually struggles now. You see all the road coming up on top of the curb in that area, so you're putting all that water back out there again. If you put it in the bottom end, it actually gets the water going before it gets to the road. So you're only doubling up out there. The water's going back into the same place, goes all the way around and back down through the street, back through the houses.
Discussion.
Yeah.
Had to go the whole house down.
When you start affecting landowners with easements, I just don't believe that that's the correct.
I'm not too sure it's going to hurt this easement or not. That's why I was asking the question. If you're within the 3 metre easement, you're already in the 3 metre easement.
How do we defer it, do we, till we get the right information?
Can't do that.
General Manager.
Madam Mayor, I was going to indicate, perhaps we just clearly indicate that we expect all works to be within existing easements. Anything outside those easements would have to be negotiated with the property owners.
Councillor Terrett and Councillor Adams are happy with that,
I'm happy with that.
so that needs to be added as a condition.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Councillor Goss, you're next.
Just a question. The person number, I think it was 55, what it was, person who may be losing a little bit of ground, are they entitled to compensation for losing the ground through easements? I mean, because when they bought that property in good faith and there was no easement there, and all of a sudden council's got
Councillor Goss, it's only where the easements are already, where they're already, pardon me, where they're already in place.
I understand that, but my question is, if it's not in there, are they entitled to any compensation?
Madam Mayor, that's when the negotiation would occur, because my understanding is that there would be some negotiation and possible costs to the developer with regards to that, because they're widening an easement. If it is at all necessary, which hasn't been proved to date. I take it that they're within the easements, and I think if council moves the motion to the condition that is clearly in the easement, that's what the council's, planning authority's expectation is.
So can we get those words?
Yes, we're putting them up now.
Works to be undertaken within existing stormwater easements.
So within existing easements, because we may run into the sewerage easement as well.
Oh, the easements. Easements. Just take out the stormwater.
Do we have to take the stormwater word out?
No, that all
Oh, that's all.
stormwater works be
Okay.
undertaken in existing easements.
All right, the additional condition is with all stormwater works to be undertaken within existing easements. The mover and seconder are happy with that?
And the bit about, if not, negotiating with the
No, well,
landholders.
there's no requirement for us to put that in, that just needs to happen.
It just needs to happen.
It's there now.
Yeah.
It's there now. So there's no-
Legal requirement.
Okay, councillor Terrett, do you wish to sum up?
No, I think it's.
Covered? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, everybody. It's meal time. Thank you very much.
Can somebody perhaps
No, we're going to break for half an hour for a meal break.
Thanks, Mark.
No, 15.1 is the Bicycle Advisory Committee Terms of Reference and the Local Recycling Committee Memorandum of Understanding. We have a recommendation there that council endorses the minor amendments to the terms of reference of the Northern Midlands Council Bicycle Advisory Committee. Sorry, Jeremiah, I should have said we're starting. Are you right? And endorse the minor amendments to the Memorandum of Understanding of the Local Recycling Committee and note the proposal to advertise for membership of the committees for the membership term to the 30th of June 2026. I have a mover and a seconder for a motion. You're moving this motion? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Adams. Yes, Councillor Terrett.
In relation to memorandum.
No, actually, first of all, Councillor Andrews gets a chance to speak, if you wish to.
No, I'm fine at the moment, thank you.
Councillor Adams, you wish to speak? You right?
Yeah, I'll reserve my right.
Okay, Councillor Terrett.
Just a question in relation to management committees and other committees. I've been on a few of them where this comes up, it's now expired. I'm just wondering if there's any time frame for getting all those MOUs signed by all the other management committees around the place.
We were going to look at waiting for the review, but I think it was as the matter was raised today, I think it's important that the committees have some certainty with regards to what the next 2 years bring. Council can still do the review and then look at what the changes might be. So we're looking at organising that as quick as possible.
Wow, I don't know whether it was Councillor Lambert or Councillor Goss, there was a hand went up in the end of the table. No? Okay, sorry, I was seeing things. Anyone else who wish to speak? No? Okay, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 14.2 is policy updates, council chambers, Longford, and the use of and Australia Day Awards and volunteer recognition. And we do have a recommendation there that council endorse the minor amendments to the following policies: council chambers, Longford, use of, and Australia Day Awards and volunteer recognition. So I need somebody to move and second that recommendation. Yes, and a seconder, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Adams, do you wish to speak to it? No. Councillor Andrews? No. Anybody else wish to say anything? Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 14.3 is the review public interest disclosures procedures, and the recommendation there is that council endorse the public interest disclosure procedures as amended and submit to the Ombudsman for approval. So just somebody to move. Councillor Terrett, you're moving that motion?
Yeah.
And Councillor Adams? Councillor Terrett, do you wish to speak?
Question in relation to actually putting people's names. Are we obliged to put people's names, or could we put positions? Just in case positions become vacant and unfortunately people come and go. And I thought it was a bit set in time rather than having to come back and visit this again.
Yeah. No, definitely take that on board, and if we can amend it accordingly, I think it'd be a good idea to amend it.
Councillor Adams, do you wish to speak on it? No comments from anybody else? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 15.1, I'm not going too fast, am I? The financial report, the financial statement, recommendation is that council receive and note the monthly financial report for the period ending 31st of August 2024 and authorise budget 24-25 alterations as listed in item 4. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Archer and Councillor Adams. Councillor Archer, do you wish to speak?
I just got a question in outstanding rates on page 87. That blue line at the start seems to be very different to other lines at this time of year. Is that?
Yes, that's mainly due to the airport.
Right.
Yes, so that blue line I expect to continue going down, and which is largely different to previous years because of the airport.
Right, okay.
Councillor Adams, did you wish to say anything? Nobody else wants to say anything? Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 16.1. Yes. Proposed closure of part of Yule Road, Perth. And we have a recommendation there. The council commences the process to close a 505 metre section of Yule Road from the intersection of Edwards towards Cromwell Streets, as described within the report and associated plan, in order to upgrade stormwater drainage and to develop the area as public open space for recreation, including shared pathways. Okay, we're happy to move that, Councillor Terrett. And who's like to second it? Councillor Lambert? Councillor Terrett, do you wish to speak?
No, let it go. It'll be fine.
Councillor Lambert, do you wish to speak?
I'll just reserve my rights for the moment.
Okay, Councillor Adams.
Yeah, but this works in with the original plan that we've been working on for many years and straightening up this area, West Perth, I suppose would be the best way to describe it, and it'll create a good, wonderful recreation space and open space for Perth into the future, and getting on top of the water flows and now the new developments that are taking place, it'll certainly bring Perth together. And I see the trees are growing very well on the perimeter of Perth, so that'll be a beautiful walk area around Perth in the long term.
Councillor Archer.
Yes, any time frames on, says the proposed rail underpass, and obviously the works involved. Is any-
Working on that at the moment, plans have been drawn, probably actually waiting for the funding to come through would help us. The bridge plan for down Drummond Street, that's all in, we'll actually probably progress starting to get them made in the future. So all the design, everything's been completed. Pitt and Cherry doing the design work for us and done all the levels and everything like that. Very way advanced, we're just waiting for actually the money to come forward, I'd say.
I just asked proposed rail underpass because my experience at Ross is that things take a long time to happen with rail.
Tasrail have been good, they've actually worked with us on this project, been very good.
Councillor Goss.
Just wondered about the funding, because the funding for the road, the rail underpass is not included in the budget. Is that been, have we got the money for that from elsewhere, or have we got, is that money coming out of our budget as well?
No.
And the other thing I was going to ask, that if we just listen to what Mr McCullough said there a minute ago, that if we haven't got that secured, then should we hold off doing the other works until we get that? Because the whole idea of this project is to get it linked together. If we can't get that part through, the underpass, well, there's probably not much point doing some of the stuff at this stage.
Legal Manager.
Well, Madam Mayor, the funding is there. We're successful. I think it's about nearly 3.6 million for the works, upgrades through the stormwater system through there, and that includes the underpass. Half of that is coming from the federal government, the other half we're contributing, and that's council has endorsed that in the budget process over 2 years now. And we're progressing well with the actual design work, as the works manager suggested. And we've actually been having excellent dialogue with State Growth, because there's funding there to actually fence the area off as well, because they've always expressed concerns of us, because as you know, coming down Edward Street, individuals just walk straight over that and straight over the railway line. They've been working with us for a number of years, of which we weren't prepared to pay for it. They were wanting to fence that area, but part of this project now will be fencing through that area, as I understand it as well, to ensure that they're guided towards this pathway, which on occasions will not be able to be used because of the flooding, but that's why there will be a pathway up the middle of the road there that will take them up to Drummond Street anyway, through the section that's closed.
No further discussion? I'll put the recommendation. Yes, Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see this progressing actually. I'm quite, I think this is going to value add to that space in that area, and I think it's really good that we've got that underpass happening to be able to connect this side of Perth with the main shopping precinct and the schools and all of the other areas there. So I think that's a real win for that part of our Perth community. So I look forward to seeing it happening.
I think we might owe a thanks to our General Manager for progressing with this so well.
Yes.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now we're going to move into closed council. Councillor Adams, you're moving. Councillor Terrett seconding. We won't start till everybody's ready. All those in favour? Against? Carried.